the Big Tech censorship lawsuit is well underway. This was something that got filed back in May, and wasn't real sure if this was going to have any legs, and it looks like it does. We actually see that on the 12th, just about 2 weeks ago, there was a discovery order from the judge that said the states are entitled to learn more from these social media companies about their censorship collusion with guys like Dr. Fauci, with guys like the CDC, with guys like the DHS to sort of craft a narrative on social media to serve them in a way that implicates constitutional rights, free speech, and your right to participate in American life.
Media platforms are not permitted to censor people based upon viewpoint. They cannot decide that you have the wrong views of climate change, you have the wrong views of COVID, you have the wrong views on the election, and censor you. They are only allowed to censor content that is illegal. So yes, they can censor you if you are conspiring to do something violent. They can censor you if you are using the platform for illegal drug trafficking or sex trafficking. So there are those limited cases where they can deplatform you or ban you, but not just because they disagree with you. And it's no defense, according to the Texas law, that you or I are violating their guidelines. Texas's point is that their guidelines on this score, on this issue, are unlawful in the state of Texas. And so what that means is that anybody in Texas who is not just banned, but is blocked, banned, removed, deplatformed, demonetized, deboosted, restricted, or denied equal access to these platforms can sue. And if you sue and you win, which you're likely to win, because if you are banned, they have to show that you are a sex trafficker or engaging in some sort of illegal content. If not, they can't ban you. They have to restore your account, and they have to pay all your legal fees. So that's what the Texas law says. By the way, there's no provision in the Texas law for damages. It's not as if they're going to give you millions of dollars in damages, but they have to restore your account, give you full access, equal access, the same access given to everyone else. And second of all, they have to pay your fees. So this is a nightmare for these social media platforms because, of course, if the Texas law is constitutional, you can be pretty sure that pretty much every red state is going to have a law of this kind. And this, by the way, offers a way around trying to change federal laws or withdraw the Section 230 protection from these platforms. Politically speaking, that would seem to be impossible. But it's not impossible to attack this problem on the state level. By the way, Florida, too, has a law dealing with this issue. But what is at stake here and what went before the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, is the Texas law. And the court, in a stunning and wide-ranging decision, basically declared that the social media platforms are in violation of the law. The law is constitutional, even though a lower court had struck down the law. The appellate court has vacated that decision, and the law now is in effect. Obviously, the social media platforms are freaking out. They're going to probably appeal to the Supreme Court, but my message to them on that score is good luck.
A joint petition asking the court to compel them to produce those documents, saying, all right, look, the Fauci, CDC, Jen Psaki, all of these administration officials, they don't want to give it to us. Judge, order them to do it. Here's what the Attorney General says. He says, so far, the DOJ identified 45 federal officials who have interacted with social media companies on misinformation, right? And we're going to read the order in a minute. But it says beyond the DOJ, Meta, Facebook, they identified an additional 32 federal officials, including White House officials who communicated with them, and YouTube identified 11 federal officials, including White House officials who communicated with them, many of whom were not disclosed by the DOJ, those stinking liars. They said, I want to know who in the government was working with the media companies, the tech companies. The DOJ gave them a list. They said, oh, we've identified all 45 officials. Here's the full list. And guess what? They didn't give them the full list. Meta said, well, I'm looking at the list of everybody that you gave us, and guess what? we talked to Chuck and Charles and John and James and Jimmy, and they were all over here. And we were working with them, and they weren't on your list that you disclosed to us. Oh. And then they go over to YouTube and Google, and they're like, well, who are you talking to? And they're like, well, I don't know those people on that list, and I don't know those people on Facebook's list, but I know everybody on our list, and it's all these other people. Not disclosed. Now, this sort of reminds me of something. It's like,
PayPal canceling the accounts of several people and organizations that publish anti-establishment views on things like lockdowns and vaccines, climate change, sex education. What else do you see happening here?
Well, I see this as part of a whole movement that's really taken power a long time ago. I mean, there's a sense in which the revolution already happened, and people are figuring out that the people who control these organizations are colluding with governments to squelch free speech and to promote their values. So, this is just another piece, another very sad story. But we're used to it by now, and what is going to be required in order to counter it is a movement that moves in a different direction, a commercial cultural movement that really espouses a different set of values and pushes against this one, because this is only going to keep happening.
Procured, they say it constitutes government action. Okay, it is the government. Many people on the left, they say, well, they're private companies. Facebook can do whatever they want, and Twitter and YouTube, they can do whatever they want. But there's a distinction in our law. It's called government action. When the government is sort of encouraging private individuals to do things at the behest of the government, it's kind of like the government is doing the thing, right? They can't outsource all of this stuff to private actors.